Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome today to a session all about identity. Now, me and my good friend Denise Davis were talking about identity last week, just in general, human beings and life. And we sort of stumbled onto the fact that entrepreneurs, business owners, we also adapt and adopt an identity based on the business that we're running. So we don't always decide to become owners of businesses or entrepreneurs. We can fall into it. And there's something else that happens to us that we don't really take on board as an idea, the reason why things might be going right, the reason why things might be going wrong. So today is kind of an experimental place, guys. So be kind to us. We'll probably do another one if there's some kind of like good follow up from this from you guys, because it's an interesting topic. So my name is Joy Langley and I'm an emotional intelligence coach. I'm also a therapist and I work with business owners and entrepreneurs to help them to clear emotional and mental head trash that might be stopping them from being successful in their business. Basically, the things that they're doing are creating issues. It can make you start losing money and you're not aware of it, and it just impacts your profits. And that's basically because of how you are being, the stuff that's going on in your head and your emotions. So that's me, and I will get Denise possibly to explain a little bit about herself. But Denise is from the world of further education. She's been doing being an assessor as well, which means she goes out and she works with young people and she make sure they're being trained properly. She's also an entrepreneur. She's worked in, she's got a business of her own, and she's also supported her brother in his business. So she understands that fully. So without further ado, we're going to keep this hopefully to 30 minutes, try and pack some good information into that so you can walk away with something to make you think about your own identity as a business owner. So Denise, I'll go over to you and perhaps you can just explain a little bit about what you do. Just flesh that out for us because I don't think I've done a good enough job there.
No, thank you very much for such a wonderful welcome, and welcome to anyone that's joining us. As Joy said, I'm Denise, and I've worked in education probably since I left school when I was 18. First off, I joined a training provider to learn more of the basic skills of business administration. From there, I was able to jump around different organisations, different industries. So working across pharmaceutical to one of the global pharmaceuticals, where I was able to do back office stuff and learn about communication and telephone switchboard. From there, gone into the entertainment industry, and then I went back into education and literally working for an education provider. That's where I gained my skills in assessing and the training side of things. Then I went to a college. Now in the UK, colleges are for anyone from age 16 upwards, where I've obviously enabled lots of people to be able to gain skills in business admin, information technology, customer service. That's really my bag. And then I went into vocational learning. So this is about apprenticeships. I'm very much lead by example. I want to learn by doing, and that's what I help other people to do. So probably in the last 10 years, predominantly I've been working with people undertaking apprenticeships across, again, business administration, management. And from that perspective, it's been very helpful to be able to obviously have my own experience in the workplace. What does that mean? So
Denise, I'm going to stop you there. Denise, because you have done a lot, an awful lot. And this whole thing about identity, especially when it comes to being a business owner, it did get me thinking about what is an identity. You know, we use the word, what does it mean? You know, and for me, this word identity is just it's how you see yourself, but
Yeah,
it's
it's who
also
I
then
am. Yeah,
all the elements that make up how you
yeah,
see yourself. It could be your physical appearance, it could be the skills that you have, it could be your values and your beliefs, it could be the environment that you live in, and generally just life experiences that make you you. I sort of
absolutely.
call it building a house. You
It
have to
is a
have
sort
the
of like,
foundations right.
yeah, absolutely.
So the
I mean,
foundations have to be there, and
yeah,
you sort of build it from the ground upwards. And we may not realize that this thing, identity, is something which we have and it's constantly evolving. And when we get into being a business owner, an entrepreneur, that there is an identity crisis that may be happening to me quite a
and
lot, to
me.
you, Denise, and to the
Yeah,
rest of the world. So the word identity crisis is very interesting because it normally, we kind
absolutely.
of have the idea of midlife crisis. It happens when you're sort of 40. But how about having a business identity crisis? And I don't know if you identify with that at all, Denise.
I really do, because throughout my career, when you start from DNA and the basics, the way I look. I mean, right now I'm dressed as though I'm getting ready for the construction industry. I am, because that's what I've been working on today. I've been subcontracting to my brother, helping him with his business. Um, but as part of that, who am I in terms of the way that I look? I was always very focused on, the size of me. I'm not the average person. I am what people would call morbidly obese, and that actually posed a huge problem for me, particularly when I first gained employment, because, who am I? Who should I, be aspiring to be, when I was finding it difficult to be part of what was considered at the time the norm. When you look at magazines and everyone else, they're all the size 10s, 12s in the UK, and I was that much bigger. And I couldn't accept that, the way that I looked wasn't an issue.
And Denise, it's very interesting when we're looking at human beings, because becoming a business owner and entrepreneur, or even just working at a very high level within a company,
Yeah,
um, who you are and what you're doing is so unique. I know that we have an idea that we're all like, we're all similar. If we've got a job title that's similar, we're all doing similar things, but we bring who we are to everything that we do. So our identity is very important. And I know that I grapple with the fact that I may have an identity crisis about owning up to being an entrepreneur. What is that definition? What is that title, that umbrella? Uh, it, I've been self employed since 2012. And even up to this point, when I speak to coaches, it's hard sometimes to say, I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur, because I
mhm,
actually don't know what that definition is. Apart from doing something which you love, that you're passionate about, and you promote it as best as you can, and that's it. That's it. But there's other things going on in the background,
there
which
is.
I know must be at play to do with my identity way before I became a business owner, Denise.
Mm,
And you mentioned that idea about, you know, just looking at our body shapes, that can
yeah,
be something that differentiates us from each other. But I
absolutely.
also think within business, we are differentiating ourselves because of
Without,
who we are in the
yeah,
business. The business will be a function of who we are. And I do say we don't grow the business unless we grow the owner. But
absolutely.
becoming an entrepreneur, Denise, I want you to perhaps give your spin on, are we in transition from one identity to another? And is this something which makes sense to you?
Yeah. So, wait, when you're talking about, a transition, I don't think we as individuals will ever stop evolving. Um, you know, if you can understand and recognize who you are to begin with, who I am, which always reminds me of the song that I hear on the Virgin Atlantic advert that we know of in the UK. Um, you know, if you can learn to accept who you are from, you know, the way that we look, the way that we start building expectations. If we can have a basic value system, who identify who we are, we can then be more open to evolving naturally and organically with the situation that's around us. So transitioning is something that will happen over X period of time. For one person, that may be a couple of days. For another person, that could be a couple of years.
And I've got someone saying it's quite hard when you're constantly being judged based on your
Absolutely.
identity, you know, and thank you very much, Saskia, for that. Much appreciate you for saying that. It is hard, but we have to embrace, I suppose, who we are and get more comfortable with that. And
Yeah,
that's a process that started way, way, way before we became business owners and entrepreneurs. It
definitely.
started back as soon as we were born. We developed this little personality, and our identity began to be, I call it like building a house. It's the
Yes.
foundation that
Yep.
makes us us. We don't realize that we're building it, but everything that happens to us, every experience, how people perceive us, you know, just general characteristics as well, how we
Yeah.
define ourselves, and the idea of having value, a value system and beliefs that come into it again that add to it. This is happening to us all of the time. And I don't think we question the fact that we have an identity that is changing as we move from being, I don't know, under the age of 10 to a teenager, to our 20s, to our 30s, to our 40s. These identity shifts are happening all the time. And in business, I just don't think I personally have ever looked at it in enough detail. Hence the reason why I brought you on today, Denise, because we had this chat and we thought, let's just talk about this. Is
Yeah.
there such a thing as a business identity? You know, is it very different to your normal identity, or is it something quite separate and you're meant to separate them out? So I don't know how you feel about that, Denise.
When I look at business identity, I would want to understand more about the founder of the business. I'm not setting an expectation to say, I want this founder, as in me, yourself, to say we're X, Y, and Z, unless we believe it. Unless we're passionate about what we're telling other people, then it's not going to help your audience, your consumer, want to learn more about you, connect with you, want your services. You know, if you were into, you know, making products, you know, you need to be able to make everyone feel like you understand them and that you're listening to them, and that comes from within. If you understand who you are and what you're about, and you're clear about what you believe your values are, because often, you know, when you're setting up a business, you need to identify what your values are, what your vision is, your mission statement. All of those are important, but what is more important than anything else is helping people to understand this is who we are right now, helping everyone to understand how they can engage with you and to trust what you're doing and saying. People are very open to change as long as you communicate well with them, as long as you set expectations. And the expectations that you'll be setting need to be quite simple. Communicate, be open, honest, transparent, and everything will fall into place. Yes, you need a guideline. I'm not saying, you know, throw out your vision statement and all the rest of it. What I'm saying is just allow yourself to be. This was a conversation that we were talking about last week. Do you remember when we were
Oh, for
talking about
sure. I do remember it quite clearly, because this
yeah,
idea about who, and I must admit, this thing about who am I
yeah,
becoming,
yeah,
and whether that journey has been disrupted or changed because I've dropped in the middle of, well, towards the end of my career, because I'm a little bit older than everyone else, but towards the end of my career, I've dropped this entrepreneurial thing into it. And
Hmm.
has it changed me? You know, how has it changed me? How do I need to be? And I I've the thing is, I am a perfectionist. I admit it. And before I became a business owner, I wasn't a perfectionist. But becoming, entering business and trying to set myself up properly and doing things perfectly, it's kind of made it worse. I don't know. I think it's made it worse. I have more moments, more highs and more lows in terms of my mood than I've ever had. And I think it is because I just want to get everything right. And
Of
that's because
course.
I have mistakenly thought that the identity of a business owner means getting everything right.
Okay. Do you remember you talking about, building the foundations? If you're building a house, every single brick, there obviously has to be quality standards to be able to make sure that the bricks are obviously going to be stable enough to hold the roof on at the end of the day. And if we treat ourselves in the same way, if you look at every single brick, they're not all perfect in the way that they look, in the shape, the color, they're not all consistent. There is all different variations. That's the way you need to look at, when you're setting expectations, be as simplified as you can. Don't set the expectations that high. You then cause yourself burnout, because you're not going to help yourself and you're not going to help anyone else that might be wanting to consider your service or product, if that's where you're going. It's accepting that we are perfectly imperfect, and that's okay.
Perfectly imperfect, two of my favorite words that I sort of mush and
Yeah,
smush together
yeah,
because it's one of the things that probably stops me from burning out. But I think the recognition today really is about helping us just to think
yeah,
about how we can make our lives just a little bit easier as business owners. I
yeah,
quite agree with you. The expectations that I put on myself to be perfect, I just described that, but also the expectations to start something new where I have not had any experience of being a business owner. Well, sort of ish before, but not a lot. I've not
yeah.
had a parental background where I've been around business owners. I really am just hitting the ground running. And in between hitting the
And that's
ground running,
okay.
but also having to feel that it has to be perfectly landed. And
Yeah,
not only do I hit the ground running and do a nice forward roll, I've got to jump up and just look like, hey, I was meant to do that and I can do it again and I can do it better. So it's very interesting about what I think I ought to be, because this is
yeah,
about, we're looking at identity. And am I taking on board some of the elements from my past where I was a perfectionist and multiplied it by 100
yeah,
because I'm in business? And I do have a lot of highs and lows, Denise, and I share it quite publicly.
yeah,
And I have to question, what is that about? And I know that somewhere in there is exactly what you said. My expectations are off the chart. I
yeah,
expect not only just to start a business, I expect to also have an amazing business immediately. I'm
yeah,
not prepared to wait. I don't think I'm meant to wait. And then I look around at everyone else and start comparing myself to everyone else's, like perhaps their middle or their ending. And I'm at the beginning. So I'm doing a lot of really bad comparison stuff and making myself feel awful. So today's like a mini confession, I suppose, for everyone, so that you can perhaps accept what you might be doing to yourself, how you might be making life very difficult for yourself and cutting
yeah,
yourself some slack in
yeah.
between there, Denise. But I don't know, how has this entrepreneurial journey been for you?
It's been a huge roller coaster, if I'm perfectly honest. You know, Something that you said to me, you do make mistakes, and I think what's so important when you're in business is to be confident about your own abilities, and if you are operating with honesty and transparency and trust, not only within your organization, whether it's small to large, whether it's your consumers that you're, thinking about, if you've made a mistake, can you hold your hands up and go, I got that wrong? And, in some industries, that is perfectly acceptable to do that. From my own perspective, I've spent most of my career as an entrepreneur from within. And, during that time, it's been really difficult, trying to transition from one role to another, because there are all these huge expectations on you. But I think that as an individual, I am my biggest critic. And that's what I brought into my own business as an entrepreneur. And I think because I did that, I've only been an entrepreneur for the last 4 years, but I've been teaching entrepreneur and entrepreneur skills for many, many years. I've got the white hair to prove it. So it's all about learning mistakes from other people, yes, but it's also accepting that you're not taking on everyone else's concerns. It's about how you manage things. You can be given the tools and the techniques and all the theory behind what a business should look like, but you've got to be confident in your own abilities. If you have the confidence to say, I can make this work, you will find a way. One person will take a straight route, another person will go, all over the place. For me, my experience has been that roller coaster. I'll have those highs, and those highs are absolutely fantastic because all the outcomes that I wanted to have been met. But when they're low and people have decided not to use my services, it's having a network of people that you can call upon to actually say, can you please listen to me and help me find a way through this muddy water?
And I like the fact you said about tapping into, I think I end up talking in terms of like sound bites, and I'm very conscious of that. And it's almost like, being a walking advert for business or a walking advert for entrepreneurs, little sound bites about be transparent, be honest. And the thing is, what does that look like? We really, I suppose, need to understand what that looks like before we start bandying all these words around. I think remembering that, I always say that we're a human being way before we are an entrepreneur. We always have been, and we always will continue to be. And the entrepreneurial life might be just a small part of your journey. It might be the rest of your journey. But I know that I've landed in this place because there was something that I wanted to share with everyone. And it was a skill that I had that I really enjoyed, talking to people and helping them. And the therapy space was wonderful, putting it together with the coaching space. And, suddenly I'm thinking, I have a business. I didn't have a business because I'd never really thought like that. So it's interesting about this identity that I need to grow into. I call it like growing into a lovely pair of shoes that are probably too big for me. But I will grow into these shoes. And while I'm growing into these shoes, perhaps recognizing that if I'm wearing shoes that are the size of a clown's, I might trip up every now and then, Denise, cutting myself some slack and cutting myself some grace.
Because I don't know about you, but I know certainly my biggest successes have actually come from failure. And that might sound a contradiction, but throughout anyone's career, there will be times when things go totally wrong. I, as an entrepreneur, so I was working within an organization, I didn't communicate as well as I could have done. And as a result of that bad communication, I, as a critique of myself, I was, really quite harsh with my own feedback. If I was a journalist, it would be biggest scandal you've ever come across. But I was able to use that and use it in a positive way to make sure that I didn't make that same mistake again and again and again. I think the other factor that we need to acknowledge is, you know, it's not a great way to stereotype people, but I think there is 4, you know, key personality types across the world. You know, you've got those that are very driven, and they will be, you know, very tunnel visioned. They know what they want, they go for it, and they'll make sure that they get everyone involved, which is great. You've then got, you know, your analyst type of person, and you know that they will be in financial type roles. You've then got your extroverts.
Where's the creatives?
Exactly. They're the extroverts, they're the creatives, they're the ones that are already, they're always wanting a party, and every person that they haven't met yet, they need to. And then you've got, and I'm going to say that Joy and I, we both sit in this same category. We belong in the care, supportive type roles. And that doesn't mean to say that we can't touch upon the other areas, because we definitely can. But for us, it's about, you know, we bring truth, we bring that honest, open relationship to allow these types of conversations to say, you know, when we've made mistakes, is there someone that I can talk to? Is there someone that, you know, I can just share some of this with, because I feel very lonely. Or it could
I'm
be.
glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that, Denise, because this whole thing about having to be independent, having to be autonomous, and that is one of the strengths of being a business owner. You need to learn to be independent. I can't keep saying, oh, excuse me, miss, excuse me, sir, can you please help me with my homework? You know, it doesn't work that way. We are on our own to some degrees, but we also can call out to our network and ask questions, and just share sometimes some of the places that we're in. I mean, I reached out to you, Denise. You came along to one of my webinars, and, you know, I didn't realize that you knew me from when we used to work together in a college. I'd forgotten all of that. So it was very interesting the way that we met. And I'm very much into serendipity. So as soon as that happened, I thought, that's it. This is a sign. I like my signs. This is a sign that we should be doing something together. And hence we're here talking about this subject, which is vast. You know, it's impossible to sum up identity in the space of half an hour-ish. You know, it's like, it's impossible. But it's something that I wanted to drum home, that it's a journey that you've been on, that you will continue to be on, and it's never going to stop, no matter what you do in life. And what you do as a function that brings you an income, it could be anything. Okay.
Absolutely.
You happen to be an entrepreneur, you love the word intrapreneur.
That's it.
So working in a company, but also displaying all the qualities that an entrepreneur has to display, but with the safety and with the structure and with the regularity of income. This is what is happening in a business, which is why people step away when they think they're unhappy and just think, I can do this by myself, not realizing that the structure that a company provided is no longer there. And you have to wear all these different hats and be all these different things. And you don't necessarily have the skills. So you can take quite a dive in your self-confidence, which used to be an absolutely confident person, and suddenly it just takes a nosedive. But if you're recognizing that, ooh, I am now developing my identity as a business owner, and it's quite different to what I've done before. I'm in transition. There might even be moments of loss and grief, all the things that me and you know can happen when you're transitioning from one experience to another. If you're aware of that, then perhaps you'll be prepared for the journey. And my whole thing is opening up this idea that, it's a journey, and we really should be embracing the fact that our identity is shifting and that we are growing our business. And we have to grow first. That's all I can say. We have to grow too, but I think we have to grow first. The business
Yeah,
is going to be limited by me and my stuff. I embrace that, which is why I take on board new skills and I learn new things. And as much as it's, even though when it's hard for me to learn new things, I will do that. And if I can, I pair up with other people who have better skills than me. I actually just employ that freelancer and get the job done quickly, rather than me being that snail that takes everything so slowly. So you're always
yeah,
fighting this thing between time and money.
yeah,
Sometimes I have the time, I do it myself. Sometimes I don't. When I have the money, I certainly do pay for things to be done quicker than I can.
yeah,
But lots and lots
yeah.
of questions, and the chat's been really, really lively. I've loved our conversation, and we're getting some really beautiful comments. I've been putting them up here, not been reading all the lovely names out, but this one's from Elise, and she says, this is such a beautiful and reflective conversation. So I call
Yeah,
that a success, because
absolutely.
just before coming on, and you'll admit it, I said, I'm really nervous about this, Denise. I'm
Yeah,
very nervous because I don't feel prepared. But you laughed at me and you said, because you know that I'm an overachiever, I'm an over preparer. And if I was looking deeper into that, what does that mean, Joy? Is this an old belief that you've had about yourself that goes way, way, way back before you even entered this entrepreneurial space? And I would
yeah.
have to say that it's true.
But
I've always been like that.
let me clear something up, though. I certainly wasn't laughing at you. I hope that we're laughing together, because we've both been through these feelings, these emotions at different times throughout our careers, and it's very important that we give ourselves some breathing space. Something else that you mentioned earlier, you were talking about, as an entrepreneur, it's about using the skills of other people that are better skilled. It's not just a case that they might be better, they might not be. You can't do everything. I can't remember who it was, but someone mentioned earlier that being a CEO can be quite lonely. Absolutely. That's why it's so important as an entrepreneur, as an intrapreneur, to build your network of people that, thank you, Raphael Christian. Thank you. It's so important that, you don't isolate yourself, that you build a good network of people, and you know who's going to work with you and who isn't going to work with you. And these people can also help you not necessarily determine, but help develop your identity even more than what you thought possible, because your aspirations are so important, and you are constantly achieving them, and you're building upon them. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're always striving to build that self-esteem, self-actualization at the top, because it's part of our character, our nature, to want to be the best that we can. Just give yourself time to sit back and actually accept the things that you've done well. And if you haven't done it so well, it's not a problem unless you make it a problem. So,
And I wanted to say the serenity prayer, but you know what? I can never remember it properly. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the
yeah,
courage to change the things that I can, and I can't remember the last bit.
can't remember, but I know exactly what
You
you're
know
referring.
exactly right. And I know that everyone that's watching thinking, yeah, Joy, you can say this. We remember it, But yeah, it's kind of like the common sense to know the difference. That kind of end bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You know.
And the thing is, for every individual, and this is something, I need to point out, what is common sense to you isn't naturally a common sense to the next person, because we all have, we don't have a level playing field. We all come into this journey at, in different ways. We bring different DNA to the story of our lives. And yeah, it is the wisdom to know the difference. Some
We've
people
got such a
naturally,
great audience here, and
I love it.
I wanted to try and keep the conversation short and sweet and full of stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and if anyone has any questions, please drop them in to the chat box at this
please
point,
do.
and
Yeah,
either Denise or I will try to answer it. But I'm very conscious that I said 35-ish minutes, and I'm going over time. So if you do have to go, you know, please connect with us on LinkedIn by all means. I put all the banners and stuff up, Denise Davis, or ask me and I'll definitely tell you. My name's Joy Langley. And yeah, remember that you can have conversations with people who are nurturers. We classify ourselves as nurturers.
definitely.
Denise works with a lot of teenagers that are just coming through that whole horrible identity phase.
Yeah,
That is where things go terribly wrong. And the identity, who am I? You know, what do I stand for? How does this life work? You know, where do I stand in the world? What's my worldview?
yeah,
All these questions are coming up in your teenage years. But I'm also trying to get everyone to understand that the life of a business owner might also feel like that kind of a crunch point, like, oh my God,
absolutely.
I'm a business owner.
Yeah,
What do I stand for? You know, what do I do? How do I do it? You know, how do I relate to the world? Recognize that it's also a transition that's happening in life. There is, I will call it, a business identity crisis. Don't mean to
yeah,
scare you or anything, guys, but you know, there's something going on. And work out that you're not on your own. I don't ever want you to feel like you're on your own. Talk to someone. You know, even if it's a good friend
yes,
or it's someone that, you know, like myself or like Denise, we kind of know stuff, but make sure you don't keep it all in. Try and get some of that external stuff out. And as Saskia is saying, some of these things that are happening in terms of our identity, they can be cultural things that are
absolutely.
put on us, they can be political ideas that are put on us, and economic. Very, very great contribution there. But everyone in today's chat box has been so busy and just so exciting. I'm really glad that we did this today, Denise. Don't know if you have any final words that you'd like to say. You know, please add,
Yes,
you know, round it up for us. Thank you so much.
yeah, Saskia is absolutely right. You know, there is bias, there is stigma. When that will change, I honestly don't know. But it's about being honest and open and, you know, trying to bridge the gap and make it inclusive for, you know, those that you want to be part of your family. Because when you have a business, it's like another family, an extension to your family. So if there is bias and stigmas, particularly in my own business, then I will try to avoid entering into that kind of situation because it isn't very conducive to the running of that business, and the operations can be quite stilted. And again, that can put you back into that very lonely world. So it's about you know, embracing family and, you know, allowing people to be who they are.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
let Amira's comment be the last one that we have today.
Love.
Amira Alamin says, allow people to be respected, allow people to be, respect all, and vibe with your tribe. And do your best to not take it personally. Ah.
I
Enjoy the
love.
life that we have been given and share your wisdom. I mean, I'm loving that, you know, and getting the thumbs up on that one, Amira. So good on you. And yeah, I can't better that ending. I just wanted you to at least tune in and get a sense of where you are, that there's an identity that you have as a business owner, which might be the problem at the moment for you, creating a lot of this emotional and mental head trash, as I call it, which might be stopping you from being successful right now, holding you back, increasing your costs. And talk to someone about it. I'm a great person to talk to. I'm a bit biased, but you know, you don't grow your business unless you grow the owner. And I just want you to appreciate that, how you find that growth, whether it's by working with someone or looking at a video, getting a book, doing what you need to, you recognize that you have to keep up with the growth of your business. Otherwise, I say you'll be the weakest link. But Denise, it's been an absolutely brilliant conversation. Loved
Thank you
talking
for
to
inviting me
you.
today.
Loved your contribution. You know, it really, really was great. And Raphael, you know, I've got to put this up. Raphael says, I am a Joy fan. Yay! Thank you, Raphael. You're a bit biased. And he's been for a while. And he knows, and he thinks I'm doing a great job and help everyone to keep growing. Absolutely. That is my job. If I'm doing that, then I feel good in myself. So I'm going to call it a day, Denise. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you. I've absolutely loved this. And if you want any more sessions like this, then please reach out. Thank you.
And everyone, feel free to connect with Denise Davis. Feel free to connect with me. Would love to hear what you think about this. And yeah, do have a good morning, a good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And yeah, we probably might do a part 2. Let's see how this goes. But yeah, if you want a part 2, then, you know, let me know. I'd love to know if you want a part 2. We'll take it from there. But have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And we shall say our goodbyes. And then from Denise, do you want to say goodbye?
Thanks ever so much for your time today. Really loved it. And Joy, you are wonderful. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.